Lee has a question. If one is lucky enough to work with a well-respected editor or author for development edits on their manuscript, should they mention that in their cover letter, or are statements like that taken with a grain of salt or looked on as pretentious?
That's an interesting point, actually. When someone writes to me and says, I've had Arundhati Roy read my manuscript and she loves it, I'm going to read it with great attention very quickly. If they write and say, I've had a professional editor run their eye over this and have actually gone through it for copy editing, etc., I'm going to say, oh, good, that means that I'm already reading a cleaner draft. And this person is obviously very serious about what they're doing. They've gone through the process with a great deal of commitment. So I owe it to them to read it seriously and quickly. Pretentious will happen if the phrasing of that letter is offensive. If it says it in such a way that it's like, listen, you'd better take my manuscript because you know what, so-and-so's loved the book and so-and-so's endorsed it and so-and-so said X, Y, Z things to it. At which point I'm going to say, so what? Like, I don't care. I want to read it for myself. So just phrase it in a way that is interesting, that makes the other person curious and thinks that you are committed to the work rather than shout at them. That's to do.
The next question was, what do you look for in a query letter from an author?
I look for clarity. I look for them being able to say to me in crisp, clear words, what is this book about? What is the short plot line of this book? What genre is it? Why are they the writer for this? And if possible, especially in nonfiction, I'd love a little bit of the comparative literature. What else is out there and why is your book different from what's out there? Those are really the points. There are people who will send in marketing ideas, which is always useful, but it's not important at that stage. So I would suggest you don't send in marketing ideas early. One, why give away your ideas to someone who may not publish you? Two, it's too early in the process. Okay. So just present your ideas clearly, send in a synopsis, send in a sample chapter or two for the writing, and that's it.
So Kanishk has this long blog post about why you should submit a marketing plan along with your submission. So
to whom? To the agent or to the publisher?
To the agent. He's talking.
Yeah. So to the agent makes sense because you're selling yourself to the agent. You are saying to the agent, take me on because I come with all of this, attached. And so it's important. But for a publisher, remember, they have a publishing department. I mean, they have a marketing department. They have people who are going to do that job for you, whose job it is to think about marketing as well. So they just need to know that you're willing and that you have ideas and connections, etc. But that can come later.
Okay.
At this point, when you're first sending the manuscript out, it's really about the manuscript. And what I will often do is I will write to the writer and say, listen, I like this idea. I mean, I did this last week. Somebody sent me an idea for a book, which I won't go into because it's still like, a proposal and may or may not happen. Sure. But it's a book that is about doing business in this time, specific factors, etc. And I read the proposal and I said, okay, I like it, but I don't know who these people are enough. The net isn't giving me enough information. So I set up a call and I said, can I speak to you guys? And then I set up a call and we chatted. And so much for an editor is about that connection with the writer. At least for me, is very much that. If I feel like I'm vibing, we get each other, we are talking the same language, or we have the same hopes and goals for the book, I would rather take it on and do whatever it takes to make that book successful. Then, without knowing some of this stuff, it's hard to pitch it to your own marketing team. So you set up a call, the editor will call you and say, I'd love to know what you think we can do with this book and how can we market it. So one of the things I'd say to you is, if you are going to write to pitch yourself to a publisher direct, you could say to them, look, I have ideas for marketing. If you like the book enough, the manuscript enough, I would be very happy to, share those with you, get on a call with you, etc., etc. So offer the help, but without giving it all away right at the start.
So does an editor buy a book or does the company buy a book? In the sense,
the company always buys a book, but the editor is the lead on it, and it's the one who's going to champion it all the way through. But at Westland, for sure, it's very, very clear that it's a combination of editorial led but marketing supported. So if marketing says, as sometimes happens, they're like, we can't market this book. We don't know how to market this book. This writer doesn't have a profile on social media, or the writer is reclusive and will not appear. There are people who say, I'm no good at festivals. I don't want to be going to shops and talking to shop floor people, etc. They'll say, we can't do this. And it's a call. So I would say about 50% of the time I'll say, okay, if it's so clear that this is a really, really uphill task, and I'm going to say, fine, no, we won't do this book. There will be 50% of the time when I say, but you know what? I agree with you that this seems like a really difficult marketing job, but the manuscript is so brilliant and the work is so outstanding. That's the bottom line. Oh, that's important. And we'll figure out the marketing later. We will set expectations for the writer based on this. We will say to them, listen, we have this feedback from marketing that says that they're going to have trouble putting large numbers out. They don't really know how to get a handle on this. And I'm being fair with you, direct with you, and telling you this transparently. Are you still willing to do this with us and still work out ways to do this with us? Because we love the book and we'd love to do it. And so it is a 50-50 thing, honestly.
Okay, great. That's helpful. There are further questions. One is, are there emerging trends in specific genres that you can highlight or talk about?
Unfortunately, the biggest trend is for you to become very famous on social media and then write a book about anything and it will sell. That's what is happening at the moment. I mean, those long queues for people and signed copies are all about celebrities. It's deeply frustrating for serious publishing and for writing, I'm sure. But that is the truth. In terms of trends, I think a lot of people are plugged into health and fitness now, which we can see all over Insta or everywhere. So that larger trend is actually a trend that's been here forever, which is self-help. In every category, self-help management, self-help, career, self-help, how to look better, get better, all of that. That is still the ruling trend. All these other things, whether they are comics, whether they are YA, whether they're fiction, whether they are mythological fiction, whether it's corporate nonfiction, all of that is dependent quite heavily on the book, the person behind the book, all the rest of it. But this self-help category is just huge, massive.
And this is self-help of any kind, not just health and fitness.
Yeah, I mean, you see Ikigai is selling large numbers now.
Yeah. Psychology of money, atomic habits.
Psychology of money is huge, atomic habits, everything. And then there is the other part of that self-help thing, which is everybody's trying to listen to some guru or the other. They can find one. Yeah, so there is that whole spiritual angle to it. So some guru says something and we all jump after it and say, oh my God. But that, you see, that again cuts into the celebrity angle as well. I mean, Sadhguru writing a book or Sri or, any of those people, it's actually a following that is buying into the book. It's not so much the book per se. It's who you are that's doing this. So we published a book, for instance, several books by this person called Daji. I don't know if any of us.
Yeah. His ashram is 2 kilometers from here.
Oh, right. Okay. So Daji Daji's a quiet man. Daji does not do the flash stuff. But Daji has a very large following, a steady following, and they do a lot of meditation and things like that. So when a book by him gets published, there's an automatic sort of buy-in from the group, from the followers who are keen to buy everything he writes or is part of. So those numbers can rival or be at least equivalent to the social media influencers who may be young and glitzy, as opposed to the wiser, older guru sort of figure.
Who are invariably men, interestingly. But
yeah, it is mostly men. Amritanandamayi is one woman who has a huge presence in that following way. And she does a lot of social work. There's hospitals and schools and colleges and all of that. But interestingly, books don't really. It's so sorry. I don't know what happened. It just vanished.
No. We were talking about we were talking about celebrity
Yeah.
writers and spiritual leaders and all of that stuff. I'll come.
Yeah.
So yeah, and you were talking about Tama Anandamai.
Women that strangely she has a huge following, but her books haven't worked.
Interesting. Okay.
Is there a time lag or any slowness in my connection?
It seems to have caught up now. There was a little bit, but it seems to have caught up now.
Okay, fine.
The next was a very specific question, which I found interesting, which is, would it hurt my chances if my word count is too less for the genre average? For example, my draft one stands at 50K for an urban fantasy.
No, it doesn't matter. In fact, what would be harder is if it was way over what is sensibly priced. So if you wrote a 600-page novel, that's harder to get people to take on. Though having said that, we've also published 1,000-page novels, but it's really rare. Less is not such a problem, honestly, because it just allows for a better pricing. As long as the book does what it sets out to do, it's fine. And I keep thinking that the novella is such an interesting form, and people can read it at one shot in a much sort of more effective way than a big novel, and somehow it seems more satisfying than a bunch of short stories some days. So you should just persevere with your 50K draft and just shine it.
So tell us more about Shine It, because I think that's something that we just do the first draft. Talk a little bit about that for us, because I think that's really useful for this community.
Okay, so one of the things I find it very surprising actually still, that sometimes we'll get manuscripts that are perfectly competently written, but even then there would be these typos every other page. Sometimes in the very first paragraph, very mysteriously, it's like a blind spot. You've read it so often and you've kind of polished that first paragraph so often, and yet you haven't spotted that one typo hiding in it. So when I mean shine it on one level, I'm saying just please get it proofread really carefully. These days you have AI doing it for you. Just like pop it into some Grammarly or some platform you're happy with, but get it proofread. By shine, I also mean if you have the ability to stroke each sentence to what it could be. Don't say, okay, I think that paragraph is too loose, or maybe that paragraph doesn't need to be there, but that's okay. I'll just leave it for someone else to decide whether it should be there. Take that decision if you can. Work on that loose text. Work on a sentence that seems flabby or unnecessary. If you find yourself using mannerisms, or if you have any tics, that these days with a PDF search, it's so easy. It can also be difficult, because if you suddenly find yourself searching a word and say that, oh my God, I used it like 1,200 times in this one book, then sometimes it gets like, I'm not a writer. How am I going to write this? Like, why am I using the same words over and over again? And I remember reading about one writer who found themselves blocked for like over a year because some reviewer had pointed out that they used this one word 100 times or something in the book. And they just went into this thing. They said every time they started writing, that word would come up and then they would freeze because they're like, oh no, I can't write. So I thought that story was really interesting, but this was in a time before PDF searches made it possible for you to find your own tics. So just do searches on mannerisms and words that you find yourself doing a lot, and just systematically go to each one and change it. That's a small part of the shining I'm talking about, but it makes a big difference, because every time you change a word that you've used in multiple contexts into something slightly different, I think it just changes the nuance a little bit, gathers that sentence a slightly different momentum. So work on that kind of change. If you find that you've written a book, just think about the basic things before you submit it. One, does this book require to have chapters? If it requires to have chapters and breaks, then how many chapters does it have? Is each chapter roughly the same length, or is one chapter 5 pages and another 35 pages? If so, can you do something about making it a little bit more even? Because clearly That's usually the better thing to do. Um, if you have breaks, or if you think that something within a chapter you're unable to give complete continuity, or you have multiple voices and they need a break, then make sure that you mark that with a visual break in your manuscript. It just immediately makes the reading, more clear for the reader. If you have chapters, think about what you want to do with that. Do you want to name the chapters? Do you want to just give them numbers because, hey, it's just the first draft and really it's okay? But if you took that one more day and said, yes, I do think this needs titles, then what are these titles going to be? And just come up with some names maybe. If you want to, if you're thinking that this could do with some more fleshing out with you, then sit down and say, who's this character? How old are they? What are they wearing? What kind of mood swings do they have? How do they talk on the phone when they're talking to somebody? I know you do this as writers all the time, invent characters and live with them and give them flesh and blood. But even then, I find that there are writers who paid a lot of attention to their primary characters, and then some of the side characters will just exist for the sake of being there, for the sake of the plot, or to just get things going. And you're saying, I'll work on it later. The point is, I think, especially with fiction, that editors will possibly read your manuscript once, not more than that, before they make up their mind. So when you submit it, give them the best version that you can come up with. So even if these things seem like just grunt work at some level, just mechanical work at another, it's still worth it to do that. End your chapter with a little dingbat to say end, start the next. All you're doing at this point is really making it something that the reader, the editor, the other end finds not easy, not effortless, but let's say something that they are interested in sticking with. Just how do you hook them and how do you keep them interested? Sometimes it's just this. It's just clarity. It's just neat proofreading. It's the right breaks at the right places, things like that. So that's really what I mean by shine at this point.
That's great. That's very helpful. Yes, this seems to be better.
Okay, great. So I'm on my phone now. So that's
you can unpin the other. Yeah. All right. Great. Next question was, what are the points that you're most likely to get a rejection from Westland in the pitch, cover letter, manuscript? You already told us. So in short, what should not be done when pitching to you?
It's interesting, actually. I don't think there's anything not to be done. As I said, it's just a waste of time getting superfluous information that's not required. But I don't see anybody really doing that. I think most people now just go straight to the point. They write about what they're working on and what this book is about, and that's fine. I mean, there really isn't anything that you're saying that could put off the editor, unless it's a badly written cover letter, which sometimes is. We get these badly proofread letters. We get letters which say things like, I've written novel, they will say. I kind of shut down after that. If I get a letter that says I've written a fiction novel, I don't read a fiction novel. I'm just thinking that's the competence of the language, then I'm not going to much love the writing. So sometimes you just take these snap decisions, which are obviously not always fair. So that's one thing. And the second thing is, please, because a lot of you will be making multiple submissions, whether it's to an agency or to a publisher, please proofread your mail to make sure you're writing to the right publishing houses. We often get mails that are cut-paste, so they will make sure they change the name, dear editor, etc. But buried inside the mail, you'll find some other publishing house's name. At which point, again, it's just a bit off-putting, and then you're like, oh, whatever, they're making multiple submissions and they haven't bothered to get your identity right, then they're clearly not that interested in publishing with you, so let it be. So just watch for those two things.
All right. Next question was, speaking of trends, are there certain months when publishing houses are inundated with query letters and a few months that are comparatively easier?
No, 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 no. I don't think any of that works or happens. Everyone works around the year. Everybody submits around the year. Publishing books is around the year. So no, there's no such thing.
Okay. Does
I
Westland?
know someone who has a theory about this. Manu Pillai, the historian and writer. Manu tells the story, and he tells it very often, that the best time for writers to write their mails to publishers is to write somewhere late in the middle of the night and send it, so that when the editor's at their computer, the very first thing they see is your mail, and they're going to look at it. So I don't know if that holds true for everyone. But yeah, I mean, it's true. And I thought about it a lot afterwards, that if I get a mail in the middle of the afternoon when I'm already deep into editing something, or if I'm, in the middle of 15 other meetings and calls, etc., I'm going to set it aside. I'm going to say, oh yeah, I really should look at this, but it will be later. But it's true that when I come into the office and I see something first thing in the morning, I am possibly going to look at it with a little bit more time on my hands and read it through very quickly. So maybe he's right, actually. Yeah. Send in your proposals first thing in the morning.
We've had Manu on FDC, by the way. So, yeah. Does Westland scan manuscripts for AI generation?
No, we don't. We're very careful about that. There's been so much talk about AI. We're not sure what's going where, etc. But at the moment, at least, we are able to say no, we are not doing this at all.
No, but do you scan manuscripts for AI?
No, you're talking about, okay, not uploading, because that's another thing that we're worrying about, whether we are uploading onto AI for proofreading, copy editing. We get asked that a lot, and agents are writing it in. So I thought about that. But are we scanning for AI? Only when we feel that we sense a dissonance somewhere in the writing, or we come across like a tone break or a slightly different style, or something alerts us to the possibility that this is possibly not just one voice, at which point we might. And this happens less with fiction and more with, say, information type stuff, like adult nonfiction, but also children's nonfiction. There seems to be a lot of AI generated content that's going into children's writing at the moment.
Okay, great. Is it difficult for first-time publishers to publish short stories?
It's not about first time or any such thing, because of course Jhumpa Lahiri's first collection of stories was a huge hit, wasn't it? But short stories have got bad press and they continue to get bad sales. It's very hard we continue to publish short fiction. Some of the best books we've done, I think, are short fiction, but the market is very, very lackluster when it comes to short fiction. It's almost like a novel is a big serious thing that you have to take seriously, but short stories are wannabe works. Somehow that seems to be the way everything comes around.
So when something like Heartland wins, do you think that shifts the market or not really?
No, not at all. This is a great tragedy of Indian publishing and reading, that that single book that won a prize will sell more, and maybe other stuff that she does will sell more later. But it will make no difference to either the way people read Kannada writing in translation or to anything else. It's just that single Booker Prize that seems to make any difference, and that's it. I mean, no other thing happens.
We are very short on time, so I'm going to go very quickly. Share some of your favorite books or authors, especially recent Indian fiction, if possible.
Oh God, I always blank out when people ask me questions like that. What do I enjoy the most? What have I read? Oh, like recently we published this really fantastic novel called Deviance by Shantanu Bhattacharya, which is this novel about 3 generations of gay men. And I just loved it. I thought that not only did it do something very different, but it's such a masterful telling of the story that it's a pleasure reading it. So yeah, that's one thing I would. There's another writer who I'd really, really like, Ranbir Sidhu. we published 2 novels at the moment, A Dark Star, and then we published something called Night in Delhi last year. He breaks the rules. He writes outrageously well, but he also writes outrageously in terms of he couldn't give a damn about what's appropriate, what's politically correct, none of that. He just writes like with power and with honesty.
What
And
is his name?
sorry, Ranbir Sidhu. The books are Dark Star, which was published 2 years ago, which is a short novella, which is a kind of the story of this old woman who's dying in a village in Punjab, and she's looking back at her life. It is amazingly good. And the second one is called Night in Delhi, which just came out last December, which is a novel about this very amoral but interesting man in Delhi. Again, sort of bordering on, it's violent and dark, but it's also such a pleasure to read these books, which they don't just work, whether it's Deviant's or whether Ranbir's work, they don't work with the norms, they have their own original story to tell, and they tell it really well.
Nice.
So,
what's the timeline like after you receive a manuscript you like?
I would say an average of 6 to 8 months for publishing.
Okay.
You would take at least a few. So if you work backwards from that and assume I'm putting an 8-month period to it, the last 2 months are really about printing and distribution. And the 2 months before that might be for the last round of reading and proofreading and indexing or whatever else the book requires. The first 3-4 months will be very much about going back and forth with the editor on structural edits, copy edits, at least 2 rounds of each. So that's usually the pattern.
All right. Cool. And we'll make this the last question. Well, we can skip the last one. It's not much of a question. All right, great. Well, this has been really informative, and I'm glad you figured out your connection. Because
and honestly, I know that you work to a time, but if you have any more, I don't have a problem taking them because I lost you some time on this. So if there's anything I'm
question. The last one was just a guess saying maybe Sunday night would be better, as that would be the first mail you see on Monday morning. I don't think
this is a good point, but there's something else to be said for this, which is that there are oftentimes Sundays the one day that one has the leisure to read. So if you send something on Sunday, maybe I would read it quicker, or someone else would read it quicker.
That's assuming you check your emails on Sunday.
Oh, I do. I told you publishing is 24/7. You might choose to ignore it or not answer it, but there's no way you're not checking it.
Oh, okay. All right. Great. No, this has been awesome. I have your WhatsApp number.
Sure.
I'll drop you a message.
Let me know if there's anything more.
We should catch up. We should catch up even otherwise. But it's been absolutely wonderful. I was just thinking I have to rewrite a couple of our blog posts because maybe that advice is on the Himalayan Writing Retreat website, because I need to just add a little more nuance to the recommendation I've given people. So
thank you so much. It's always a pleasure for me to talk to people who are interested.
Yeah. Now,
and who think books matter.
Seminal question. If one wants to submit a manuscript to Westland, how do we do it?
Oh, there's an email ID, wleditors@westland.com.
Okay.
That's
Great.
it. Or you can take my contact from Chetan and just message, and that's as simple as that.
All right. Sounds great. Thanks a lot.
All right. Bye. Have a good weekend.